Hi, it's Kate Brownfield from ADHDkidscanthrive.com. Thank you for listening and thank you for all your support. My guest today is Jim Rajan, a professional seer and healer with clients all around the world. He started his professional life working in film and TV and then moved to study world healing methods, including shamanism, reiki, traditional Chinese medicine, and the Daoist training. Jim grew up struggling with attention and learning. He was a highly sensitive person. He felt rejection deeply. As a child, his parents thought he might be autistic. He failed to thrive as a baby, and they put it down to transmitted anxiety. Receiving anxiety for others was very painful and confusing for Jim. Now, as an adult, through creating his own method as a seer, he does deep healing work for others. Please enjoy our conversation. Thank you, Jim, for joining me. I'm looking forward to this conversation. This podcast is focused on parents who raise ADHD kids. And I think when parents, children, families are struggling, we tend to focus more on the mind, maybe the body, but never the spirit in these kind of conversations. So that is why I invited you here today. And I'm really looking forward to you enlightening us a little bit more when it comes to a person's soul and their spirit.
Thank you. My pleasure. An absolute pleasure to be asked.
Okay, so Jim, your job, the way you define your work is that you're a healer and a seer. Is it seer? Seer?
A seer, yeah, a
See?
seer.
Okay, so let's start from the beginning. Like, what is that type of work? What is that? What do you do?
What is that? So I have to call myself a healer, so you know what I do, but I don't heal people. I have to call myself a teacher so that you know what I do, but I don't teach people. I provide a space whereby people, adults, children, find themselves, learn themselves, understand themselves, listen to themselves, heal themselves, see themselves. I mean, I use the word seer again because in a way I have developed my own way of being in this world as an ADHD, dyslexic, and all of the other things rolled into one person, highly sensitive as well. And so I have developed my own gift of being able to see things for people. But that doesn't make me any more special than you or anyone else. It doesn't mean I have some wonderful magic that no one else has. Everyone has the capacity to heal, see, feel things, intuit things. But most of us numbed ourselves or got numbed in some way or other by society or by everyday life. And it's, and it's not, there's no enemy. We love looking for enemies. It's not society's fault or our parents' fault or anything like that. It's just, that's how human society is built. But for highly sensitive people and people like me with things like ADHD, dyslexia, these things, society's not really built for people like us. And so it kind of spits us out because we don't really conform.
Okay, so tell us a little bit, Jim, about your experience growing up with attention and learning and how that, just tell us about your journey and how that affected you.
Okay, well, I mean, I live in Spain now, but I grew up in the UK and I'm half Indian and half English. And so growing up as a mixed race person in the 70s and 80s in the UK was difficult anyway. And my education was very strict. There's an exam called the 11 plus, or there used to be in the UK, where if you passed it, you could go to a grammar school, a better school in a way. And so I did pass that exam because my father really invested a lot of time in me. But then I went to a really academic school and they just murdered me because I'm not academic. And I loved things like music, but the music room was kind of a broom cupboard.
That wasn't the priority at the school.
No, exactly. The art room, the same. I loved woodwork and just playing with wood and making things with my hands. And there just wasn't, there was that to a degree, but not like I would have loved. And so, I mean, I did a post about this on Instagram a long time ago where every 3 months you would have his school exams in everything from maths to geography to whatever. And I was always at the bottom of everything. And I really tried. I did my best. And, my dad is Indian. He was expecting me to be a lawyer or a doctor or a professional. And I come along and dashed his hopes massively. And so they just didn't really know what to do with me. So I just kind of got rejected. And I even had a teacher when I was about to leave school sit me down and say, look, you're not going to have a particularly good life. You're pretty useless as an individual. I don't have any expectations of you in
They
your life.
said this. Wow.
And it crushed me.
Yeah.
But it was brilliant as well, because it reinforced my inability to conform. It gave me an enemy to fight against.
Yeah.
No, I'm this. This is what I am, and I'm proud of it, and I'm going to be this to the best of my abilities.
So this led you to more creative outlets. You kind of nourished maybe your authentic self. And did you come into that as an adult after you got out of school? You said, okay, I got to figure this out and nurture myself for who I really am.
Yeah. I mean, I am very much indebted to my parents and my family. I have two sisters and a brother, and they've really inspired me in all kinds of wonderful ways. And I left school and I went to a polytechnic, which was kind of like a university, but more practical and technical. And I studied design, but I never really used it. And I wasn't very good at it. But then, when I kind of was in my early 20s, I went out into the world and learned about life and just tried all kinds of things and got fired from loads of things. And again, kind of, there was something inside me that got crushed each time. And what's wrong with me? I'm the problem. Oh, woe is me. But on the other hand, something underneath got nourished, and something underneath was like, right, well, okay, that just wasn't the right thing. Let's have another go. Let's try something else. For example, my journey with flutes, one day I just had this feeling that I want to play the flute. So I borrowed a flute from someone and tried it, and it didn't really work. And then tried a different kind of flute, then tried an orchestral flute, then a Native American Indian flute, then this kind of flute, then that. And I did like a 10-year journey through all kinds of flutes until I found the Bansuri, which is from the north of India, which is where my roots are from. And so in a way, I went kind of full circle to come back to myself. And I use that as a great metaphor for life, because we do that. We separate ourselves from what we are for the sake of society or other people or approval or what have you. But when you come back to yourself, that's when you hear the truth. That's when that's when there is knowing, or it feels right. Or that's when the intuition allows you to converse with it, or you allow yourself to converse with it.
Yeah. And so you played the flute for a long time. Do you still play the flute?
I do. Yeah. I'm just for myself. I mean, I've
hobby.
recorded music and I play the drums and percussion and guitar as well. But I wouldn't. I used to do concerts and things, but I didn't really like doing that, because then I was doing it for someone else, and I really need to do things for myself. And so I just sit and sometimes just play one note of a Bansuri flute before I'm about to give a session, and it just kind of takes me back to that sensing field instead of the practical organizational field. It takes me out of the body and into the, like quantum physicists call the field of possibility, I suppose.
Yeah. Okay, so Jim, I feel like you're really good at defining like what a highly sensitive person is. Can you talk to us more about that?
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at one.
Yeah. Well, I feel like a lot of kids who struggle and their parents are very highly sensitive people.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, my daughter is incredibly sensitive. Often, highly sensitive kids are born to highly sensitive parents. ADHD kids are born to ADHD parents. First of all, we define ourselves a lot. And I've spent 49 years trying to not define myself and instead refine myself and become more and more what I am. But I know what you're talking about. And so highly sensitive. Okay. Everyone is highly sensitive. All human beings are born incredibly sensitive, just like, I think, was it Einstein that said that all children are born a genius until they have it educated out of them or something. For me, that's so true. But there are some of us, and it's said to be about 10-15% of human beings who couldn't numb ourselves or who couldn't accept the being educated out of it and have to be in it, whatever the cost or whatever the circumstance. And so it's for me, the way I am, I feel all kinds of things and I sense all kinds of things and I see things that I know other people don't see. The nuances in little things like the way, the tiny little ticks in someone's face or how they use their eyes. For me, it's fundamental that highly sensitive people start to understand human nature. And while you can read all kinds of books on it, which is psychology, the best way is to just sit and observe. I mean, I have very strong links with many parents whose children are incredibly high sensitive. And often those children were in situations in their life that were situations of suffering or pain, whereby all they could do was just observe people and observe life. And through that, they would gain this wonderful understanding of humans and human nature. A sensitive or a highly sensitive person is a normal person. And the majority of the other people, in a way, hypnotized themselves to just be able to cope with life because life is really hard. Being a human is damn hard,
Yeah.
and it's very competitive and it's very patriarchal and it's all about competition and comparing and being better than this person or having more stuff than that person. And to be able to do that well, you've got to toughen up, which is what I was told to do a lot. Hide your vulnerability, not go with your heart, go with your mind, be logical, be rational, and just get through it. So again, it's not like being highly sensitive is more wonderful than not. It's just different. I just couldn't do that. I tried to comply. I really, really forced myself to, but I
Yeah.
couldn't do it. And so I think around the time of my kind of 30s, I just thought, I am this. No, there's a wonderful ancient Hindu phrase, Tattvam Asi, means I am this. I am God. I am life. God is me. This is what life is. Well, I might as well just do it and see what happens instead of fighting it.
And what happened after you did that? What
Well,
changed for you when you kind of like accepted yourself for who you were?
I stopped competing. I started listening, and I really started to listen to intuition. I started to create a relationship with myself that was more about me as a spirit, me as a life force. We use the word spiritual. I don't really like it because it often has the connotation that spirit is like a special magical deity outside of you. But I don't know if I believe that. I am a spirit. So
Yeah.
spirit means me taking care of this and just listening to this. I find that a lot of the parents that I mentor don't actually listen to their kids. And again, it's not their fault, but no one taught us to do that. If you read books by Marshall Rosenberg, who wrote a lot of the books on nonviolent communication, he talks about the most important thing to be able to have a relationship to your kid is to actually listen to them and find out what they actually want and what their needs are. Have a relationship with them that's based on them, not what you require of them.
Right.
So I started to do that with myself and just let life kind of show me the way and allowed myself to explore things without worrying when I failed. I allowed myself to fail a lot. I mean, I started my Instagram page and had like 5 people following me for the first year. But something inside me said, no, don't give up, persevere. I think my dad gave me that, and I've always had that. But you can produce that and nurture that in yourself simply by practice. And so also becoming a father taught me to stop thinking about myself so much and to stop playing games. Because all human beings, we all play games. Let's be serious. No,
Yeah.
we all play games, and we all kind of manipulate the little things, and we don't say what we feel. We say what we think, so that we can get the magical stuff, and then everything will be all right, and we can have a rest again because we're all exhausted and we just want to have a rest. So I'll tell you whatever I think you need to hear, so I can just sit down and, you know. And so I think the core of it is that I am still just a child, and I love that about myself. And I refuse to be an adult because it's just really exhausting, and there's way too much responsibility. Of course, I have a mortgage, I have responsibilities, I have my child. I make her lunch and I take her to school. I do all the stuff, of course, but at the same time, that's not the most important aspect. The most important aspect is my relationship to myself.
I'm listening to you, Jim. I mean, I think with parenting, we get into, we're afraid, right? We're afraid of our child failing and how will they make a life for themselves, right? So how do parents who may be highly sensitive themselves and their children who are sensitive, how do they navigate this? I think you touched a little bit on it, is to have kind of a playful spirit and not be afraid.
Yeah, for example, my daughter, when she was born, she wouldn't sleep. She wouldn't go to sleep, especially if her mother had gone out to work or something. And so, I mean, and this is a great example, and I use this in our workshops still today. I used to sit there and I'd have her in my arms because she wasn't even a year old, and kind of doing this to get her to sleep and rock her to sleep or what have you. But then as soon as I would bend down, even like 5 degrees, to put her in the cot so that I could go and have a rest, she would wake up and start crying again. And it would happen over and over and over again. And it was exhausting and incredibly frustrating, as being a parent is. And then I specifically remember one day I was just like, I give up. And I lay her down on our bed, and I just lay next to her, and I closed my eyes, and I just thought of nice things. And I just pictured a beautiful starry sky. My breathing changed. And obviously my energy, whatever you want to call it, changed. And she was asleep, and fast asleep, to the point where I could get up, put a blanket over her, go off, do the stuff. And so when you get out of the way, then your child has the space, and they feel everything they feel, and they feel everything in you. All children are utterly connected to their parents in ways that I don't know if we understand or not, because I'm not very good at reading difficult psychology textbooks. No, but the more you allow what's actually in front of you to express itself and be what it is, well, then the more you can respond, the easier it is for you to respond and reply and give an answer that's valuable. If a human, wasn't it Viktor Frankl in his book Man's Search for Meaning, he talked about the fact that life has no meaning until you bring meaning to life. So for me, I use my life as a means of creating value, creating meaning, putting something there that wasn't really there before. And so with your child, we have these preconceived ideas, and also how our parents parented us is a massive influence as well.
Yeah.
I mean, my parents, they did their best, and they're wonderful people. But I mean, I always say the job of a parent is to do the least amount of damage possible to your child, because you're gonna do some damage. Let's be honest, because you're flawed.
Because we're human, right?
Yeah, you can't be perfect. Nature is perfect. If you look at nature in all of its wonderful ways, it's perfect. But you've got a physical body, a mental body, and a feeling body, and there's always contrast there. And we're always looking for other people's stories to kind of help us in our own way. And so we're not generally really authentically thinking for ourselves or feeling for ourselves. So if you can get out of the way and actually listen to your child, that's the best gift that you can ever give them.
Okay, Jim, and how, I think you did touch on this, but like, so important for the parent to be regulating themselves, right? And finding the calm to help their children stay calm and follow their path, right? That's kind of the dance that we're all in.
I think a lot of us force ourselves to stay calm. We push ourselves to do meditation, even though we hate it. I don't think most people, I think a lot of people don't really meditation is not even the right thing for them, although watch all of the mindfulness movement come and destroy me.
I do think that, well, I'm asking because a lot of what happens, especially with kids with ADHD, is the emotional regulation is kind of can be very wildly out of control. And I think when a child feels dysregulated, that makes the parent dysregulated.
Yeah.
So where does the parent find, and then parent's the leader in all of this, right? So, and this happens in schools too, actually.
Yeah.
The child can show up in school dysregulated, right? And then if the staff and its educators are not regulated, this escalates things that we read about all the time in, with between children and educators. So where do we find this like peace, right? And this grounding, how do we help our kids get grounded? I guess is the question.
So it's your mission. That's why you're here. That's why you had that child. Your mission is to give that child the best of your abilities of, what you can give. And so, yeah, sometimes you have to push yourself to really difficult, extreme situations. I've had that with my child in all kinds of ways, and where you're absolutely in despair and all you can do is just cope. But that child chose you to hold their hand through this. So you either take that as gold or you reject it and say, no, I'm just going to do what everyone else does. Somebody else tell me, what shall I do? You tell me what to do. I mean, that doesn't help anyone. And so you can educate somebody to death about how to deal with a child who has certain challenges or difficulties. No, but it's not their child, is it? So it doesn't matter. They know that they give that child back in a half an hour or an hour and they can go and have a nice cup of tea and a rest. But this is, if you're honest with yourself, being a parent is the most difficult, painful thing ever. It doesn't matter how much money you earn or if you're a millionaire or not or whatever, or how much success you have. Being a parent is brutal sometimes. And if you're up for it and you're like, okay, yesterday we got killed, but we're here again today. Let's have a go. Let's see what we can do. I'm going to listen to myself. I'm going to start each day by just putting my hand on my heart and say, I'm going to do my best and do the least amount of damage possible. And let the child lead within reason, of course. We'll listen to them and what their needs are, and in a way be creative enough to match that. Being a parent requires an intense amount of creativity. Everyone has that. If you're a human being, you're a creative being. A lot of us got that educated out of us again. But yeah, life is freedom. You are always free until you decide you're not free. Your child is the same. And the way you are with your child, they will be free until you tell them that they are not. And I know that's very ideological, but that's my belief. And I am quite kind of strict and intense in that way, because that your child chose you. Yeah, I can't prove that. Yeah, I don't know if anyone gets to write a contract of who their parents are going to be before they come to planet Earth. I don't even know if that makes sense. It's not even a thing, probably. But the way I live my life, my blood says, Jim, you're not important. No one cares about you. What's important is your kid. And if they can fulfill or live their mission and bring meaning to this life, your job is to help that as much as you can. And if it hurts, good, because you'll learn something along that way.
Yeah.
Suffering is enlightenment.
Yes.
And nobody wants to hear that. And I say that to clients and they're just like, oh God. No. But it's
no more suffering. No more suffering.
It's enlightenment. You learn the best stuff through suffering.
It's life-changing. Yes, I have learned that greatly. Jim, you're incredibly resilient. I think a lot of what you're sharing with me in this journey, I feel like you have a lot of resiliency in you, which is wonderful. Have you ever reflected on what has made you so resilient?
Yeah, I've suffered a lot and I have used that. And I don't know why. I don't know how it was that I decided to use it, but I had all kinds of pain. When I was a kid, yeah, there was lots of suffering of actual pain, of different kinds of operations and health problems, and being bullied and racism and just being treated really badly by other kids and all kinds of stuff. And I suppose I had a great role model in my father, who went to the UK in the early 1960s and with nothing, and got himself into university, did master's degrees. He's a professor of economics. He's 81 or 2, and he's still working because he loves working, because he just eats life. It's like he'll stop when he dies, basically. And so I got that, and I fought against it a lot when I was young, and I resisted it a lot. But yeah, I practiced Buddhism for many years, and that's one of the core values of Buddhism is the Saha world, the world of suffering, is here for you to really understand yourself and do something with your life. Everyone has a mission. One thing about mission and purpose is that we think, oh, well, I've got a mission. Well, when I find it, I'll be all wonderful and happy and fulfilled, right? But that is saying, my mission will come in the future. In the future, I will then be happy. But your mission, your purpose is right now, with the person who's in front of you, with the person in the store you buy the milk from that you never said hello to, and you don't even know their name, and you feel embarrassed about it. It's taking purposeful action now, in this moment, instead of waiting for some special magical mission to come and present itself to you later on. So if I'm resilient, I kind of cry inside because I don't know if I am. I'm just done with listening to systems that don't work and try to kind of belittle me and make me feel awful about myself. And so I had to create my own system, and I had to create my own religion. And if you create your own system and your own religion, you can't then say it's wrong because you made it. You've got to live by it.
So the answers are within you, right?
Always.
Always.
Running around looking for information and all the special information that other people have, but it's useless. Yeah, read books, fill yourself with the wealth of wonder of humanity. But the real information is all just inside you anyway.
Jim, as we wrap up, do you have any more words of wisdom for parents who are will stay focused, raising kids who are struggling with attention, learning? How would you wrap this conversation?
Yeah, I could do it in a million ways, but what comes to mind, first of all, is you're a child as well, and have fun with it. Explore. You're here to explore life. You get one life. Whether you believe in reincarnation and all these things or not, even if you do believe in reincarnation, you won't remember this one anyway. So you get one opportunity in this life. If you have the great good fortune to produce another human being as your child, do it good, or don't do it at all, because you learn everything from little people. Little people teach us everything. You don't even, you would never need to read a book again, frankly, if you just sat and watched your child every day and listened to them and play with their stories and just have fun with it. Life is there to be explored until you give up or until you realize you know everything. And the person who thinks they know everything kind of knows nothing, So I would say, yeah, you're still a child. Play with it. Play with your child. Have fun. It's endless. It's an infinity of experience. And it will do them the world of good, instead of being told what to do. And you have to do this, you have to do that, you have to brush your teeth, you have to go to bed, you've got to do your homework. If you say have to a child, you're not giving them any options. There's no choice. It's do this. And yet, as an adult, when somebody says that to you, you have resistance. You're like, how dare you say that to me? Who the hell do you think you are? No? Well, the child has that same reaction, but they don't really know how to put it into words. And it's come from the person that they have unconditional love for. And so they question themselves. If you make a child question themselves, well, then you can manipulate them in all kinds of ways when they're. And so we don't want them to question themselves. They are what they are. And so it's your job to provide a space for that to play instead of telling it what to do. Definitely.
Good. Thank you, Jim.